Good evening. If you desire to address the City Council during this meeting with regard to an item on the agenda, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and present it to the City Clerk. Speakers will be called upon at the appropriate time. I'll call to order this meeting of October 6th. It's a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace. If you would all please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Just to state for the record, I have convened this meeting as the City Council. The City Council is a successor agency to the Community Redevelopment Agency as well. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Hussey?
Present.
Councilmember Wilson?
I'm here.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Robles?
Present.
Mayor McNoble?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, we'll open public comment, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items on the agenda only, and at this special meeting of the City Council. Pursuant to California law, the council will only be taking public comment on the items listed on the agenda. And we have one speaker slip. Thank you. Mr. Jeffrey McConnell.
Good evening. Jeffrey McConnell, Walnut Avenue. I wasn't here last night, so I thought I would ask for a brief recap of what happened last night for the multitudes of people that are here tonight that may have missed last night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Having no other speaker slips and seeing nobody else motion to the lectern, I will close public comment, and we will progress to our workshop with workshop facilitator, City Manager G. Harold Duffy.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, G. Harold Duffy, the City Manager. This is the second night of our City of Grand Terrace 2014-20 strategic plan. So tonight, we are going to review our mission, vision, and core values. We're going to review goal number 4, which is develop and implement successful partnerships. We'll talk about opportunities also to make adjustments in that. And we're also going to have a little fun, I hope, in terms of engaging the council in terms of where we are today and how we're moving forward with future projects. So once again, our mission is to preserve and protect our community and the exceptional quality of life through thoughtful planning with the constraints of fiscal responsible government. Also, our vision, Grand Terrace is an exceptionally safe and well-managed city known for its natural beauty and recreational opportunities, a vibrant and diverse local economy, a place where residents enjoy an outstanding quality of life that foster pride and engaged community, encouraging families to come and remain for generations. Quickly talking about our core services: open and inclusive government, honesty and integrity, mutual respect, exceptional customer service, innovation and creativity, positive and productive work environment. So tonight we're going to talk about goal number 4, which is develop and implement successful partnerships. And one of the things that's important about the City of Grand Terrace's goals is that after the goals, the council has gone through and they've sort of identified what that looks like. So in this particular case, in goal number 4, it is working collaboratively with community groups and private and public sector agencies to facilitate the delivery of services benefiting youth, seniors, and our community. In addition to that, it's work with local, regional, and state agencies to secure funding for programs and projects. And once again, we're going to talk about how we measure and can understand how we're doing with that particular goal. In last night's presentation, as in tonight, we'll talk about the operational, tactical, and strategic planning. As we went over last night, the first phase of this program under operational is to operational changes are the first step in developing the processes to ensure agency does not continue previous modes of operation. Agency is aware that something needs to change. And then and that occurs within the 30 days to a 6-month period. And the tactical format is from 6 months to 2 years. A strategy for change are identified, and the agency is working to implement the strategy, but it's not quite there yet. A roadmap has been established. And then in the strategic planning component, for the 2-year to 5-year period, the organization has identified the issue, developed a new strategy, planned for a different outcome, established milestones, and is hitting benchmarks at this time. Things should be routinely falling into place. Outcomes are predictable. Okay? What were you going to
No, sir. I was going to say now would be the time to start your exercise.
Sure, okay. Thank you. And so tonight, as we go back to goal number 4, and we look at develop and implement successful partnerships, what we'd like to do is to engage the council So tonight, can I use this microphone? This is fine. Yes. So tonight what we'd like to do is we would like to take goal number 4 and sort of have you walk through this exercise with us regarding a game of Jeopardy in terms of the various categories in goal number 4, which would be stakeholders, partners, fiscal responsibility, new services, and planning. And that's really derived from our, can you hand me that packet there? That's really derived from our mission as we try to look at goal number 4, and we try to say to preserve and protect our community and its exceptional quality of life through thoughtful planning within the constraints of the fiscal responsible government. So how we're going to do this? So can everyone push their green yes button?
Yes, but it doesn't do anything.
Pat, can you push the green button now? Is it not working, Pat? Okay. So when you know the answer to the question, we'd like you to push the button, and then I can read the question to you, and you can give me the answer. Remember, we are responding in the form of a question. Okay? So, we'll have the mayor go first, and she can choose a category, and then we can read the question, and then we'll go from there. And we have someone keeping score for us also.
Great. Let's go with Partners for 300.
The mayor chooses Partners for 300. Partnerships programs to implement to increase residents' quality of life. Eliminating potholes and alligators leads to this. Someone wants to, okay, the mayor. What is
decreasing risk to the city?
Okay, well, that's not quite the answer we're looking for.
Okay.
Mayor will ask you to try again. Be more specific. So if you're eliminating potholes, what are you going to get that's better?
What are better roads?
What are better roads? All right, Mayor.
So since the mayor answered it right, she gets another shot at the,
There we go. Mayor?
Fiscal for 500.
She said fiscal, didn't she?
Was that about chickens crossing the road?
Okay. Developer agreements for impacting residents' quality of life. Yes, sir. Mr. Wilson.
Partnership, public-private partnerships? What are private-public partnerships?
Actually, we'll just go ahead and show the answer to that one. No, go ahead and show the answer on the screen, and I can explain what we're doing. So what is a community benefit agreement? So what happens is when you have a new developer coming into town, and we have developer impact agreements, but also we have community benefit agreements where the developer agrees to help fund a park or help fund something new that is consistent with what the community wants. And for the city to allow them to move into the city with their program, in addition to their impact fees, they would agree to pay a developer a community benefit in that agreement. So that's what some of that we're moving forward to. Okay, since the mayor didn't get that, we'll start off with a council member. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson didn't get that. We'll start off, we'll move over with council member Hussey.
What is planning for 300?
Planning for 300. Okay. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. Where Paul Revere did this, we would send emails or post it in the papers. Do you have the button, Pat? Pat, are you?
yeah, so what would?
Okay, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry. That would be public transparency?
Yeah, yes, we'll give him that.
That's close.
We'll call that. What is notice on significant new projects? And that's one of the things that the council wanted was making sure the public is noticed and informed. Okay, Mr. Wilson. Councilman Wilson.
I'll take new services for $100.
School's out for blank, and I want a place to play. We have Mayor McNaveau.
What is the summer?
What are the, well, what
Oh,
service?
what is the day?
The mayor was answering the blank. So school is out for the summer, and I want a place to play.
I want
Looking for a place to play, what do I want?
What is a new park? Except that you have the opening where that should be.
Yeah.
What are summer recreation and youth programs? One of the things that the council wanted to do was to implement summer recreation and youth programs, and that's on our radar for this coming year. Okay, so let's move on to, we're not giving her that. We're gonna,
Well, then I protest the way it's written.
okay, we'll take that note. We'll start off with, now with Councilperson Mitchell. We'll give her an opportunity.
Let's go with partners for 500. Has it already been done?
It's already been done, yes.
How about partners for 400?
Okay,
Partners for 400?
yes. Okay. Quality of life like beauty. Residents want more large bicycles, honeycombs, and country fairs.
What is quality of life? I don't.
Okay, so like beauty, residents want more large bicycles, honeycombs, and country fairs. Pat, are you doing the
I
doing
have
the
no
buzzer?
idea.
You got to keep that buzzer going. Mayor McNabb?
Well, two of them fit within what is public art, but country fair is what is public events.
Well, okay, so go ahead, give her that and show the answer there. What is art and entertainment? So one of the things I've heard the council talk about, and the citizens talk about is art in public places and more things for the citizens to do entertainment-wise. Okay, onward to get it to Mayor McNabb up again. We can lose the sounds at the end. We don't have to have that every time.
Stakeholders for 300.
Okay. We give them a license and they generate sales tax. Pat? Boy, I'm going to go with Mr. Wilson. Councilman Wilson.
What's a liquor store?
That's not
No,
correct.
I'm sorry, what's a business?
That's correct, yes.
That was a much more colorful answer than mine was.
That's correct. Okay, onward, back, Councilman Wilson is up again.
Oh, good. Okay. I'll take partners for 200.
Partners programs implement to increase residents' quality of life. Stater Brothers, Walgreens are examples of this.
Already hit it.
Councilman Wilson.
Development agreements, or what are partnership agreements?
So what are those? Stater Brothers Center, the Walgreens Center.
Job generating agreements?
So let's go ahead and post the answer there.
What are,
What are shopping centers? And let's go back to that major category again so we can kind of identify what that is. So let's just go back to the main screen. So one of the, and that was under fiscal. Which one was that under? That was under partnerships. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we're going to be trying to market the other centers to ensure that we can have more local shopping and shopping centers. That's why we had that there. Okay, I'm going to move onward to Mayor Pro Tem Robles.
Oh, you want me to pick?
Yes.
Fiscal for 300.
Fiscals.
Okay. For new city projects, it is better to ask for blank than to beg for forgiveness.
Permission?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Say the question.
What is citizen support for capital improvement programs? Yes. And
it is.
and this goes back to the council's desire to have the community engaged and informed on all of these projects we want to move forward to. Okay, so onward to Council, Mayor Pro Tem Robles has got it correct. She can now ask another, pick another category. Yes.
Okay, partners for 200.
Okay, partners for, it's already been chosen. You have to choose another one. It's already been chosen.
Which hasn't been chosen?
The ones that are, so there's the ones that you can see, in maybe you're at a bad angle. Stakeholders for 100, 200, and fiscal responsibility. Fiscal was 1, 2, and 400.
Let's go stakeholders for 500.
Let's give her stakeholders for 200 because 500 has been chosen already. Cynthia, let's give her 200.
Has not.
Fiscal
Yeah, 500 hasn't
Okay.
been chosen yet.
Has not been chosen?
stakeholders?
Okay, yeah,
So
okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, would you like stakeholders for
You know,
500?
Alex Trebek doesn't have this issue, so let's go ahead and.
Well, he has a girl up there.
If the county is the big sister, this agency is your big brother.
What is Sandbag?
No, can you push it? Are you? There we go, Pat. Councilman Wilson.
What is the State Finance Department?
Yeah, he's got it right. What is the state or regional agency?
Oh, is that shit?
Okay. Councilman Wilson?
Let's go with new services, 400.
I think it's been chosen already. It hasn't been chosen already? No. Okay. Youth and seniors, you might do a half pike, a grind, and an ollie in this new park.
What is a skateboard park?
What is a skate park? You got it. Okay, there we go. All right. All right. Councilperson Wilson. Yes.
Let's go new services for 200.
Okay.
It's broken.
Okay, great. New service for, I'll make one up for us. We'll do another one. I don't know what it is. That's just the category.
Did that one not get finished?
Did not write the clue.
I'll think of something real quickly. New services for youth and seniors. So this might be this would be a door-to-door service for the Blue Mountain Villas, for the senior center at the Blue Mountain Villas. Pal, is it Mayor McNabb?
What is bus service?
Yes. What is the daily pickup and drop-off of to and from the senior center? So one of the projects that I'm working on is working with VTrans to provide. So when Measure I was approved, Measure I had 8% of the overall proceeds earmarked for senior transportation. So Mayor Robles, Mayor Pro Tem Robles and I met with VTrans, with Caltrans actually. I'm sorry,
Omnitrans.
with Omnitrans, and we talked about that program. And then I met afterwards with VTrans, who administers that program, and they will provide us with full funding to develop a point-to-point pickup for our senior citizens throughout Grand Terrace to be able to be picked up in the morning, taken to the senior center, and then picked up and taken back home. So that will allow access to some seniors who don't currently have access. All right, so we're going to move over to Councilperson Mitchell.
I think fiscal for 400.
Fiscal for 400. Okay. I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger. Quote, it's wimpy. So this is meeting residents' demand for higher services while being fiscally responsible. And so I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today, Wimpy. And Councilperson Wilson.
What is deferred payment from?
So one of the councils, did you have an answer for that? That was not incorrect. You have an answer for that, Councilperson Mitchell?
I have no clue.
Okay. So one of the things that the council has been talking about is being fiscally responsible. And so in the case of Wimpy, he's actually spending money that he doesn't have.
Does he ever really pay anybody back?
I don't think so. Of course, he must.
Now I
because,
want a hamburger.
Yeah. And so the answer to that question is only spend what you have for ongoing programs. So this is one of the council's issues, where the comments are for one-time money, only use that for one-time purposes and not for ongoing programs. We'll go back to Councilperson Mitchell again, because that was a stretch on that one.
Stakeholders for 400.
They voted for you so you can improve their quality of life.
What is a constituent?
Yes, what is a constituent? So she just chimed in there, she didn't.
Oh, do I need a vote?
Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. So she got that one correct. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to move over to Councilperson Hussey.
New services for 300.
New services for youth and seniors, backstroke, lap swim, and lessons in Grand Terrace. Councilperson Wilson.
What is a pool or other recreational facilities?
No, that's all right.
No, he can only ask the question, you gotta press the button. And that button's Councilperson Wilson's friend. What is the reopening of the community pool in Grand Terrace? So the Colton Joint Unified School District will be refurbishing their pool, and one of the programs that we're working on, will bring to the council, is trying to find a way to incorporate a summer swim program. That's what the council has indicated they wanted to do, so we're going to be coming forward to council in the next 60 days with that particular program. Okay, we're going to go back to Councilperson Hussey, since he didn't know he has to push that button. Okay.
I haven't pushed the button.
Okay.
That's all right.
It's, what is a new,
Voting system.
oh yeah, a new voting system?
Okay, Councilperson Hussey.
Well, let's do planning for Mr. Wilson. 400.
One can find the answer in the center of an apple and its worth. Councilperson Wilson.
What is the core, the city core?
What is can you be more specific, sir? Can you expand on that?
Barton Road specific plan?
No. Can you have a portion of it right? Okay. Councilperson Robles.
What are core values?
There you go. She got it correct. All right. So let's do a test. Let's do a test, Pat.
I'd like a ruling from the judge.
Okay. Okay. So Councilperson Robles gets a chance to pick. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Robles.
It's hard for me to see what's not been picked.
They're 100 and 200 under stakeholders, under partners, 100, under fiscal, the first two.
Okay, what about fiscal for 200?
Meet residents' demand for higher services while being fiscally responsible when a majority is in agreement. So this is meeting the residents' demands for higher services while being fiscally responsible when a majority is in agreement. Mayor McNamara.
Living within our budget.
No, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Anybody else want to care to try? So what is citizen support for new services? Okay. We shall move on to the Mayor McNamara.
Planning for 500.
Something that but mimes do not have. Mayor, Councilperson Mitchell.
Richard had said it. I think of voice and
Yes.
the opinion.
Absolutely.
So I think that we give it to Richard.
What
Mr.
is-
City Attorney, have you been giving answers to Councilmember Wilson?
Oh my goodness, did I say that out loud?
We'll give credit where credit's due, right?
What does all opinions matter, allowing everyone a voice? And that's part of the, the council's overall mission, is to ensure that the residents have an opportunity to voice their opinions and concerns in order to increase their quality of life. All right, so back to Councilperson Mitchell.
Let's go with planning for 200. Or is news? I love this one. This is great.
MacArthur, Eisenhower, and Marshall, just like the city, had a strategy. So, I'm sorry, let me put that again. Their title made them excellent strategists. MacArthur, Eisenhower, and Marshall, just like the city, had a strategy. Councilperson Mitchell,
What is a planner?
can you be more specific?
What is a strategic planner? What,
Okay, no,
what is it?
no. Councilperson Hussey,
What is the general planner?
that's right. What is the general plan? Okay.
City general
Ms. Hussey.
plan. That's entirely different.
Councilperson Hussey.
News services for 500.
Okay. New services for most vulnerable youth and seniors. Council awarded $1,000 for Red Ribbon Week from this fund. Councilperson Mitchell.
What is Terrace View Elementary?
No.
Or what is our community fund?
Yes, that's correct. What is the Community Benefits Fund? And this falls into the category where the council wanted to do programs for youth and seniors. And this past year, the council in the budget appropriated $25,000 to be able to help accomplish those overall.
Give that to Bill because Bill actually said that under his breath and I heard him.
Okay. Councilperson Mitchell.
Let's go with planning for 100.
The reason why we're here tonight,
What is vision and goal setting planning?
what is the implementation of the 2030 vision? Yes, correct. Okay, we're going to move over to Councilperson Mayor Pro Tem Robles.
Stakeholders for 200.
If the state is your big brother, this lower agency might be your big sister.
What is the county?
Yes. And this deals with partnerships and stakeholders in terms of how we have to identify who our stakeholders are to help us accomplish our overall mission. Okay, Cynthia, we're back to Mayor Pro Tem.
Want me to pick another?
Yes, please.
Partners for 100.
Quality of life, where residents walk and participate in organized activities. Where residents walk and participate in organized activities. Mayor McNamara.
What are recreation areas?
Yes. What are park and recreation programs? Yes. Okay. Mayor McNamara.
Stakeholders for 100.
Normally, they focus on teaching the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Councilperson Wilson.
What are schools?
Yes. And so signifying one of our partners, the Colton Joint Unified School District, identifies as a stakeholder that we need to work very closely with. Okay. Councilperson Wilson.
Looks like fiscal 100.
Meeting residents' demands for higher services while being fiscally responsible, a penny spent and a penny earned. Councilperson Mitchell.
What is being fiscal, or, oh my gosh. I'll pass it because I had a thought and then I lost it and then I went.
That was close.
I was going to say what is fiscally responsible, but it's up there. But
Okay. That's not quite correct. I'm being told by my producer.
What's being fiscally prudent or something along that line?
Yeah, but I think that's close enough. Let's give it to her. Because it's what the goal is to what is full cost recovery. So, but the gist of it is being fiscally responsible. Okay, great. Okay, so we have one more? Okay, that's it. So now we're going to go into Final Jeopardy. Yes, ma'am.
So our assistant here was tallying all our scores, and we have a tie for the two highest. We have the mayor and council member Wilson. So we are going to ask both of you to stand next to the announcer for the Final Jeopardy question.
No. That's not how Final Jeopardy works. How Final Jeopardy works is now they get a chance. You have to give them their overall score. And they can bet it all. If they get the right answer,
Okay.
they write it down, and they can,
And everybody
whoever wins. Yeah, everyone plays.
So the mayor has 600. Yeah. Councilmember Wilson has 600. Mayor Pro Tem has 200. Councilmember Mitchell has 400, and Councilmember Hussey has 100.
Okay, so the final Jeopardy question is, first write down your dollar amount. Can you write down the number or choose a meter? Okay, I'll take that. All right, sign your name to that. No.
So we're ready to, we want to bet?
I want this back, though.
Councilman Mitchell doesn't waste paper.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting mine back.
How much is this thing worth all this time?
They're going to write their own answers down. The question, I just have the dollar amounts. They can't change it. Okay, so go ahead and put the question up on the board. Final Jeopardy question of the night is, how many palm trees are there in the city seal? They're fine. So we'll give them, play the music one more time so they can have another opportunity.
Oh, sorry. I can't.
Give them the answer. Maybe they didn't see it. Okay, so after this, we'll go one by one, and they'll be honest. No one will be changing their answer as we go through this. Okay, so we're going to start off with Councilperson Hussey, who had 100 points. Councilperson Hussey, what's your answer? Two. That's not correct. You bet 100, you're down to 0. Okay. Councilperson Robles.
5.
That's incorrect. You bet 200, you're down to 0. Hold on. Councilperson Mitchell.
I originally said none. I didn't think they looked like palm trees, but they are palm trees, so I don't have any money
Okay,
left.
so she bet it all and she had nothing. Okay, and so Councilperson Wilson.
4,
Councilperson 4, it's incorrect, and you bet
100.
100. So he has, I believe, $500 left. And Mayor McNamara, you said?
I said 4, and then I changed it to 3, and then I went back to 4. And I bet it all.
The correct answer is 3. Okay. And so, Councilperson Wilson, you win.
500, oh, I don't know what he was.
Congratulations, Doug.
Alex, you're fired.
Okay, so let's go back to the main slide. And what we'll do is we'll have a conversation with the council. Go back to the main slide, to the Jeopardy slide.
Oh, Jeopardy slide.
Yeah. And so what we tried to do in terms of formatting this particular exercise was taking the goal and trying to match it to the council's vision to preserve and protect our community and its exceptional quality of life through thoughtful planning within the constraints of the fiscal responsible government. So we tried to attach those words, quality of life, thoughtful planning, fiscal responsible, and to protect the community. And so we came up with, one, identifying the stakeholders, and we tried to identify each individual stakeholders that we see so far, partnering with others, fiscal responsibility, new services and new program, and then thoughtful planning. So as we go back to the stakeholders, we'd like to have a discussion with the council in terms of, did we capture the stakeholders that you believe are the ones that are important for us to accomplish our vision? Or are there other stakeholders that you would like us to really focus in on?
So who is that? The school district, the county, the state, and the residents?
Yes. And so when we say the school district, we talk primarily about the Colton Joint Unified School District. And so let me just talk to you about some of our existing partnerships that we have with that particular agency. So currently we're developing a new joint facility use agreement to use the recreational facilities. And so we're still working on that. In addition to moving forward with collaborating with the school district on the opening of the pool and trying to develop a summer swim program. In addition to that, they have opened up additional space for us at one of the schools for our child care program, and then we're also providing after-school services at those particular programs and those particular schools. Now, the interesting point about our relationship with the Colton Joint Unified School District is they are offering some after-school programs that are funded by the government with the Colton, City of Colton. And our program is a little different, but our child care center director can tell you that we have about, I believe, 70 spaces available at each school. Was that the number? We're licensed for 70, and we have about 35 spaces available. And there are additional funding opportunities for grandparents and people who need some assistance. And so our overall goal over the next year is to try to reach out to the parents at the school districts to try and increase our numbers and let them know that there is a safe alternative for after school programs. So that's just one example of what we're doing with that partnership. And I will be with the Colton Joint Unified School District on October the 15th as they hear they're trying to approve our long-range property management plan, that share of revenue. Their board's going to hear that on October the 15th, so we'll be there with them to address that issue.
What about businesses as stakeholders? Is that one we had listed up there?
Yes, I believe that businesses were one of the ones listed, and we'll talk very briefly about that. So recently the Chamber of Commerce asked for a list of businesses in the city. Well, one of the things that I'm used to is that every month when the city gets its new business licenses in, in other cities, we would forward that list over to the chamber, and then they would reach out and have those new businesses join the chamber, and increase the relationship with the chamber, strong business relationship with the city. And obviously, businesses are important. One of the things that we're currently doing right now is we have a consultant, Muni Services, is on board with us, going through our business license process, kind of doing review to ensure that businesses have the proper business licenses, in addition to our code enforcement officer going out and making sure that we have those, that the businesses have those licenses. The other thing that we need to do is to sort of place a value on what do you get for a business license? And this is operating, we should work with the chamber to develop a directory of businesses to ensure that the residents, if they want to, find a local business, they can have that list either through the city or through working strongly with the Chamber of Commerce. So if we were going to put that in, as we talked about, operational, tactical, and strategic, we'd put that right now under the operational standpoint because we don't really have that laid out yet, and we want to be able to do that. So it's a great partnership to have with the chamber. We even talked about one of the things that the chambers have done in other cities is they host the mayor's State of the City address, and I believe that's been done here in the past, where the businesses are come together. And the mayor talks about where we are and how we're moving forward, sort of like presenting our strategic plan or the vision for the city. Any other categories you think we should address in terms of stakeholders that we did not identify?
I was wondering about the definition of the stakeholders, because at this point we got school district, county, state residents, but what about the community groups? They're a large part of this.
Absolutely. That's the one that we missed in terms of stakeholders, in terms of the community groups and civic organizations. That's right on target.
And to some extent, developers.
Absolutely. And we sort of categorize them in a larger category in terms of business, but identifying that is extremely important. Mayor Pro Tem.
I was going to mention when we were at the conference, and we've been hearing via Sandbag, they're trying to go back to their original purpose, which was a council of governments. So at the conference, they were saying that we're not voting members, but we should start attending the meetings and getting an idea of what's going on there, and start looking to be on subcommittees. So it's kind of and I thought this California Council of Governments was a new thing, but I did have a chance to look at it. It's been around a long time. I guess it just hasn't really been here. But to get to the end of what my interests are, is we have the Santa Ana landfill that at one point was going to be a regional park, and that's in Colton, but it provides space we don't have here. It's a conundrum of how do you get something going between, we have to obviously have a council majority to move that way, and see if Colton's interested, and then it's you have 2 county supervisors, so it turns into a big procedural issue. And so that obviously is going to be, some Sandbags moving in that direction, and we have to kind of be on board somehow in what they're doing,
Okay.
and it reflect what we want here.
And we can initiate that by trying to have that conversation. If one of the council members wants to pick that up, we can certainly have that conversation. A general letter going to, I can sit down and talk with the city manager for the city of Colton. We can start there with that collaboration and then move forward. It all depends on how the council wants to proceed, but if that's a desired outcome, we can certainly take that up.
I think community groups not only fit under stakeholders, but they can fit in the partners
Yes.
categories.
Absolutely. And so under the partnership category, one of the things that we want to make sure is that it's a win-win for everyone in that partnership, in that relationship. Let me just kind of quickly jump back to that. Can you show me, Cynthia, the partners that we have listed there? Just click any one of them. Okay. Pardon? Okay. All right. So, Mayor, is there any particular partner that you want to talk about in terms of that we didn't expand or examine in this particular category?
No, I think it's interesting, though, where we have stakeholders and we have partners, but I think some of the stakeholders are partners and some of the partners are stakeholders. Like we can have developers be partners, as well as the Chamber of Commerce is a partner as well as a stakeholder. And in fact, the way that you were discussing the Chamber of Commerce is more in partnership.
Right.
And so it's interesting that there's a delineation between stakeholders and partners when many times they become both.
Both, absolutely.
And as it is, we could even look at residents as partners when we reach out to them and ask for volunteer help.
Absolutely. That's
Mayor,
Yes.
I think we're remiss in not mentioning like our civic and service groups within those partner tab.
good. Absolutely.
I was considering community groups as having the civic groups.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right in terms of because this community has such a high rate of people participating in volunteer programs. So it is something that we need to make sure that we include as partners across the board. So we'll make sure we incorporate that in any future conversations. Okay. Under fiscal responsiveness.
Well, before we leave
Oh,
partners.
sure, absolutely.
On one of the things at the conference that one of the cities had was a youth council. And I know being in the Women's Club and the Lions is very effectively using youth to help them with their activities and the youth gain from that.
Absolutely.
But it seemed like being in the Women's Club, we're getting older and it would be a benefit. So I just wanted to throw that out there that because I don't know when we have another opportunity to talk about some innovations for the city, but having the youth be a full partner and having their own council that we actually have them meet
Sure.
monthly or whatever.
And there are a couple ways that you can do that. There's one way to do it would be to have a youth government day, and you could have the youth come in and shadow a council member, be selected as the mayor for the day. You could have and high school students can come in and they can follow the city manager around, and we can either do it that way, and how that you kind of play that back would say you would organize a process to say that, okay, say in March we do this youth program, and we have the one high school, they elect people, we have some different department heads are elected, and then they work on a platform, like what's important to the youth. And then they actually come to the city council and they have a meeting and they talk about, and they adopt what they would say would be a youth policy platform that the council would then look at over the years and say, okay, this is what the youth said they like to do. So when we were incorporating projects, we can say, okay, this was the feedback that we received. The other way is to actually establish a youth council that would meet on a monthly basis and come up with just what's important to the youth, and you would just routinely get information and report back from them. But if that's the desire of the council, we can examine, we can work with our partner like the school district and talk about how we can bring forward a program to the council and for the council to approve and adopt.
I think there's an organization that currently does this with Bob Levine. What is it? The veteran, it's the VFW or something like that, where they actually
Boys State and Girls
Thank
State.
you, yes. So maybe we can partner
Yeah.
with them to mirror a similar project here within the community, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Oh, absolutely. And I did Boys State when I was in high school years ago, well, we went to Sacramento and became assemblymen and senators, and that was we fed into we had a platform, we fed it, we proposed our legislation, and we went to the Capitol, we met in the assembly, and we did that was a great scenario. And we can certainly do that. There are ways for us to engage the local citizens, the local high school, to ask the questions. What do you think should happen in the city? What do you want to do? What would you like to see in the city? And you get that information back, and then you sort of have this information you send back to them, and you ask them to elect people to come and represent the city. And it's an interesting program, and the kids gain a lot, and you have Channel 3, you can have them on Channel 3. It's a really neat program. We'll certainly reach out to Boise State and kind of look at their platform.
I think that's an interesting way to get more engagement from our residents.
Absolutely.
If we start with the youth and get them interested, then we get the parents and the friends, and
Absolutely.
that might be something that provides an opportunity for them to think that there's a way to access
Sure.
city government, where I think there's a big disconnect between city government, city staff, and most of the residents.
Okay. Absolutely. That's a great tool that we can incorporate. Okay. We were about to leave that to go over to the fiscal responsibility, and I'm glad Mayor Pro Tem caught us on that. So under fiscal responsibility, that was really, as some of the slides talked about, we were living within our means, full cost recovery, support for new programs, for new services, and so, for example, as we look at this, for this particular, what is citizen support for capital improvement programs? So one of the things that I've noticed over the last 120 days is a desire for improvement in terms of facilities. We currently have about $240,000 in a city improvement program that's really paid for out of developer impact fees. So one of the things that I'd like to do is to bring back to the council is to look at how we sort of master plan our city facility use in the future. For example, I've met with the Friends of the Library, and one of their goals is to have a new library someday in the city of Grand Terrace. As you well know, our child care has actually outgrown its current space, and we have kids here, we have kids in multiple places. The city doesn't really have a place for if you're a big community room to have meetings. I've met with the Lions Club. They have some concerns about how long they're going to be in their current home because of potential issues with that particular building. I've talked with the Indian Health Facility that is on Mount Vernon, and they want to do a wellness center. The school district is also looking for additional space, and for the school district, they're actually looking, and they're at the very early stages, they're looking at their existing site that's next to the community center, and what they would like to do ideally is to build a brand new school next to the high school. And so there are some opportunities there for the city to see about, that's prime commercial frontage. And we also talked about, we just got back from the conference, so EIFDs. So I'll give you an example how that might potentially work. Is if the school district wanted to move from their existing site, which includes the community center, and they decided to sell that land to a private developer, then with an EIFD, if the city or someone were building a new facility of some type, the tax increment on that, which would be the increase in the property taxes from its current level, which is 0, because it's a city facility. I mean, it's a school district facility. So you'd use that tax increment to be able to fund the development of that new project. And you'd have a significant amount because it's not, going from today's value to a new, it's going from 0 to brand new. And then you could potentially look at that particular site, commercial frontage right next to the freeway, in addition to our 55 acres and 100 acres on the other side, and you potentially have a significant game changer. So it's a matter of looking at how, this is very appropriate for this meeting, what we want the city to look like in terms of 2030 or sooner, but it's in terms of envisioning. So one of the things so we have that $240,000. And one of the things we could do is we could look at soliciting proposals to master plan this particular site. For example, we have this building, we have the parking lot, but we also have the Public Works Corporation yard, which is very deep and goes way back. A corporation yard can be located just about anywhere. So looking at this particular area, in addition to, we now have fiber optics, and how can we develop a picture that would incorporate all of our partners to end up with a new library, community center, meeting rooms, childcare facility, and what would be the actual cost in that, and how can we access the EIFD, cap and trade. But you can't get there until you have sort of this master plan. And so the city actually has that funding source that could actually help you establish the outline for that process. So one of the things that I'd like to do is bring something back to the council in the next 90 to 120 days to talk about how that process might actually come to fruition.
How would an EIFD work on land that's owned by the city that wouldn't be on the tax rolls either?
Well, so an EIFD can be used to pay for the infrastructure of the program. And so what you have to do, if the city were to do it, the city would need to commit some resources. For example, we currently receive about $700,000 to $900,000 annually in terms of RPTTF funds. If the city were to, the city can commit the RPTTF money to do that, or the city could actually say, we believe this is the project that we want the citizens to vote for, and you would use that, you commit that in order to pay for that. If it were a private developer, it would work even better, especially the scenario of the high school. Of the school next to the freeway. So you have a different funding mechanism, and the difference is with the EIFD, it's a 45-year period. But that 45-year period only applies if you're doing bonds. You could actually do an EIFD for longer than that if you weren't floating bonds in the process. So I think one of the things that we do is we develop the process and we examine all the different funding mechanisms to say, okay, we have a project, we have these potential options, and going back to citizen involvement and supporting, so what would the citizens get? They would get an expanded quality of life by a new library, child care facility, community rooms, community center. You'd have to weigh that option for the citizens to decide, well, is this something we want to support? And support not only means rah-rah, but support means financially.
I love the fact that we're thinking differently, but knowing that we're limited on the space that we have within the community, couldn't we also look at ways to spend this money with, I don't know, I keep thinking like our kids have, we don't have adequate grounds for our kids to already play. Wouldn't we look at ways to invest that money in maybe spaces that we could move forward with actually funding ourselves?
So the facility impact fee does have some constraints to it. And I think that you're going to continue to receive money for the Quimby fee open space. And I think you want to target on that particular area. And the thing is, so the actions that the council recently took in terms of the Blue Mountain, the skate park, and the dog park, those are going to get you a very clear idea in terms of what those costs are for those projects. In addition to that, though, part of the scope of work for that project includes an assessment of your existing park system, and then an engagement of the community members, the leagues and everything else, to say, what else would you like to do? So for example, if the community said we want to do expanded soccer fields with lights, we would have that as one of the deliverables in saying that your current facilities don't have the capacity. If you want to move forward in that, you'd have to acquire this, and you'd have to, here's a cost for that in the future. So I think that all of those opportunities have to be laid out first, and then you can say, do the citizens really want this? Here's the cost for that. And our current tax base can or cannot support that. If you really want a expanded park and recreation facility, the cost for that is this. That might equate to either the city floating a bond, or either a utility tax or something. But you want to lay that out so the citizens have a very clear idea in terms of, it's a great program, but that program also includes a cost for that particular service.
I better understand.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's jump back to the next item. If there are no more, we're going to go back to the category, to your major slide there, right? We talked about, sorry, did someone say, okay. We talked about new service, I think we just talked about that. And let's talk about so the summer recreation and youth programs. So the council has about $450,000 of unspent revenue from last year, which we bring into the council on the 27th of October with a list of what I think I've heard the council talk about over the last 4 months. And so, for example, for summer recreation programs, of that $450,000, staff is putting together a plan to say, we believe that you can do a summer youth program that incorporates, the state has a program that you can feed kids summer lunch in the park. And so one of the potential programs would be having a youth recreation program, either sponsored by part-time staff or using the YMCA or the rec center to go out and create recreation activities at the park, incorporate that summer lunch program. This would be one-time program that we would put forward to have the council examine that. Very similar to what we would do with the summer swim program, where we would try to hire youth lifeguards to come out for 5 days a week to be able to create that summer experience for youth. So we'll bring a whole litany of things for the council to examine that we believe that we've heard the council talk about in terms of new programs. Yes.
So you're talking about programs that would be, to me, something that the residents would want to have ongoing, but this is one-time money. And so I'm confused as to why we're talking about ongoing programs being paid for with one-time money.
Well, so here's what happens with this particular program, is because the expense the council would incur is for temporary programs in terms of summer youth programs utilizing part-time temporary employees. And the funding that you're using for that is funding for 2014-15 to occur in 16-17. So that gives you almost a 2-year window to be able to use that one-time money. So you're using money from 2 years ago to fund that particular program and work on a strategy to fund the programs in the future. So you're not committing to programs for ongoing commitment from those funds from 2 years ago.
Right, and then as soon as they go away, everybody wonders why we're not doing it anymore.
Yes, that could be a concern if we were not.
Will you be bringing forward some one-time projects that we can consider as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. There'll be a whole litany of projects, including, the council's priority in terms of increased public safety, things of that particular nature. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow night.
Mayor, may I be called upon? Maybe we can also look at partners that we could actually provide these funds to carry out those projects. So in the end, when they end, it's not the city ending them, but rather the partners who decided to take the endeavor on.
Absolutely. And the thing is that I think the council's goal, what I believe so far, is to have those programs go into the community. We don't necessarily have to be the operator. We just want to make sure that the community benefits on a whole. And the point well taken, Mayor. My hope is that we are moving forward in a way where by the time we get to a summer recreation program in June of 2016, we will have examined our budget for this year and said, okay, we believe that we have additional revenue to fund the next year. And if we don't, we can forecast that, okay, we've got to find some partners somewhere to be able to continue. This program was such a success, we want to be able to move forward. Okay. So I think I touched on this briefly with the daily pickup, drop-off for the senior program. So our senior center has about 1,600 people signed up to be members of the senior program. A significant amount of those seniors are actually either coming, the participants right now, they serve about 20 people per day on average for lunch. And some of the residents, majority, either drive in or they're residents of the Blue Mountain Senior Village. But what we do is that program, and I'll just kind of quickly, for maybe not the council's consumption, but for the public's consumption. So the Blue Mountain Senior Center and Villa is a joint partnership with the City of Grand Terrace and Community for Better Housing. Corporation for Better Housing. And so the city owns the land. The developer built the housing development and the community center. And the property reverts back to the city in 70 years, which is now, I believe, now 65 years. And so the rents support the entire operations of the facility. Now, the thing is, as part of that agreement, the Corporation for Better Housing is required to provide services for the senior center. So all of the maintenance and all of the care, the beautiful park, all of that is actually incorporated in that entire agreement. And so our senior center is actually operated strictly by volunteers. But one of the things that I'm responsible for is to administer the contract between Corporation for Better Housing and the city. And so we've made, I think, some significant inroads. The seniors have asked for some things, and we've met with Corporation for Better Housing, and they've agreed to the things that the seniors want. The city also uses community development block grant money for that senior lunch program, and that is a very good program. And as most people know, one of the important factors for seniors is to be able to come together and fellowship, and that actually helps them and extends their life because they're actively involved and engaged. So by working with VTrans, they have said, yes, we can provide you with a joint partnership. If your cost is for the bus, your cost is for the driver, we can provide those to you. They do want some in-kind or some matching funds, but they will provide. If we do a daily pickup program, they will fund that entire program out of the Measure I funds. So our goal is to establish that. Now we have a bus already with childcare. However, that bus is somewhat limited because it doesn't have a wheelchair ramp and so on and so on. And so we are going to be examining what we can, how we can get a bus that will be accessible to all to ensure that we can continue that start and continue that program and meet the needs for all of the seniors in the Grand Terrace residents. So that's one of the things we'll be bringing forward to the council also in the near future. Okay, Cynthia? So we talked about the community pool already. We'll just, and I think the skateboard park we've talked about. Pardon? Yeah, keep going. The community has been a bit fun. Let's keep going. Well, I think let's go back to the main slide. So we talked about some new services. Does the council have any burning or other new services that you want to make sure that staff sort of thinks about and tries to bring something back to the council?
I hope we haven't lost sight of the idea of public safety. And where does that fit in these items here?
Sure. And so tomorrow night is the public safety component of the workshop, along with, I believe, engage in proactive communication. So those two will be up tomorrow. It's very interesting if the council, if you see the information that I sent out, I believe yesterday, I normally give you, the sheriffs gives me their calls for service. I then put it in a little chart for you saying, here's where we are. So now, I think now my chart gives you sort of a weekly list of calls coming in. And I've also included the highest volume of calls and the most recent number of calls that came in last week. And so what's really interesting is over the last, from June to August, we had an average of 278 calls for service each week, with a high on June, I think 21st, of 357 calls. And then we have last week's calls for service, 231 or 219. So if you look at the high number and last week's number, there's a 40% reduction in the calls for service. So one of the things that the Sheriff's Department gave us in their quarterly report, they showed us the time frames in which the call volume comes in. And here's a bit of information that I need to share with you, and it was like an aha moment today when I had my conversations with the Sheriff's Department, and they'll talk about tomorrow. So the numbers that we shared with the council this week, the 231 calls. So interesting to note that calls for service, of that 231 calls, only 50 of those calls were actually generated by the citizens. And the rest of the calls were initiated, the service were initiated by our Sheriff's Department. So as we talk about calls for service, we're saying that for the entire week, last week, for 13,000 residents, we had 50 calls for service. And the other calls were generated or actions taken by our Sheriff's Department. And so that's what I'm asking the sheriffs to sort of break that down into, because that was like we had to stop the meeting and say, can you repeat that for us, please? Because the numbers that I've been sending out to you have been the 230, 300, and so on and so on. And now that they're further breaking that out, they're saying there's the city-initiated call, and then there's the call for service or an action by the Sheriff's Department.
Mr. Duffy, are you going
Yes.
to present that to us, or the Sheriff's Department is?
The sheriff's going to present that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes. And so one of the things that I've been doing is I had the sheriff give me last year's calls. So when we see a reduction in calls and I get all excited, oh wow, and I go back and I look at last year, it mirrors the same thing. So a reduction in calls in late September, October, I could go back to the data for last year, and guess what? It's the same reduction. If I look at where we were in July of last year, compared it to this year, it's the same sort of increase. Now, what does that equate to? Students being out, or what the different scenarios are, but it's the same sort of volume that's happening. And so it'll be interesting to note is that when the call volume is low from the citizens, that frees up the sheriff's amount of time to go out and generate these other activities by doing probation checks and all those different things like that, which ultimately, in the end, hopefully, will reduce the overall impact to the citizens in terms of break-ins and so on. So it's a very interesting scenario. The more conversations you have with them, the more information you're able to pull out and extract from that. So I'm sure, as I said, I'm sure the council will really want to go into this tomorrow.
Okay. There's two separate items I want to go through, but because of the limits we have to talk to each other on items, I want to throw them out. One of the topics from Omitrans, our meeting, and also attending the conference, and now me being able to understand when you're talking cap and trade, what all that encompasses, we almost are going to need an overlay of what, even though we're a small community, we're almost like a major transportation hub connecting the two counties and even possibly Orange County. Like Omitrans mentioned that Riverside Transportation Agency is going to be pulling out of the area, and they're possibly thinking of using the bus to go by the high school, which would solve a lot of problems for us because we don't have the infrastructure for the kids to walk there. But the other thing is the cap and trade is saying, you know, one of the things that they're really big on is providing safe routes to school. The other thing is all this, you know, the more trees you have, the more canopies and for the bad air. But also talking where we're at and all the, we have a lot of wants and we're getting some money, but we always have to remember Grand Terrace, when it incorporated, was a bit short on what they needed. And they used redevelopment agency to try to get there, and we never quite got there. Now we don't have redevelopment, but we have some other tools. So like things are seeming a little bit more rosy because we budgeted for what, 3% property tax, and we actually got 7%. And hopefully we have about 3 years of a window of that. But I guess what I'm looking at is the community doesn't want to be hit with taxes. I don't want to be hit with taxes, but I also want amenities. So we got to figure out where the give is on that. Right. So the state's moving on the extension of taxes, and there's 2 bills looking at that. So I sat there at the conference, and they're talking about doing a park bond. And I used to do all these grants for special districts on park bonds. So we're going to be taxed here locally, and maybe we'll get $15,000 back, $1 for every person. So in thinking about that, it was, we need to have a discussion, and maybe even the city has to do some polling at some point of what is the desire of the community. If we have an array of projects with a price tag, do they want to entertain some kind of tax to pay for a bond? I think personally, too many things are going to the state level instead of money coming back to us. I would start advancing, like, let's talk about bonds for ourselves and money coming out of our pocket for ourselves instead of money coming out of our pocket going to the state, and then we have to go back and beg for it. And maybe we get it, maybe we don't. Yes. So finally, the thing that I'm looking at, if we can cut and paste one-time money to get us 2 years out, and then we're getting 2 years closer to when we're getting retail development coming in and we're raising our tax base. When all these intersect, is there a way of bridging short-term bonds to pay for these things, and we could get rid of the bonds, defease the bonds when enough revenue starts coming in with retail, to start looking strategically in that way? And that's all I have.
And so, one of the things, just to kind of elaborate, for people who don't know or understand cap and trade. So, what the mayor pro tem is referencing is that the state basically sells carbon credits, and those proceeds have generated about $1 billion a year in terms of funding. And so then the state has taken that $1 billion and divided it up and given it to various state agencies. One of the key components that cap and trade is focused in on is transit-oriented development, where they try to make sure the development occurs around transit centers and transit stations. In addition to that, they've got funding allocated for urban forestry, funding allocated for urban meadows and wetlands. They're giving $400 million to the bullet train. They're doing various types of programs for disadvantaged communities. And what's very interesting to Grand Terrace is that Grand Terrace is also designated as a disadvantaged community down Barton, right down the center of Barton Road. So this side of Barton Road is not in that disadvantaged community map, but the other side of it is, all the way to the freeway, all the way down to Colton. And so what that does is that means that $80 million must be spent in disadvantaged areas, community, what they call zoning areas. And there are quite a few of them throughout the entire state. But also that must be $80 million spent directly in those areas. $200 million has to benefit those particular areas. So when you're submitting a grant application, if you're in that particular area, you're going to score more points on the application. So certainly cap and trade is one of the areas that we can look at. In terms of, as the Mayor Pro Tem said, in terms of park bonds and community services, I think one of the most successful things that I've been able to do in the past is to be able to say, this is the cost. So it's the cost. Whether you like it or not, this is the cost for the service. And so having residents who want a program and having them understand that this is the cost for the program, and then tying in a funding source that can only be used for that particular purpose and not used for other purposes. Been very successful in terms of identifying this is the cost. If you do this tax or do this particular issue, it'll go for funding for that particular program. And in some cities who don't float bonds and don't do things, they commit a separate fund where any money coming in goes into that fund, and that's how that program is paid for. So I think clearly articulating and identifying what your funding source is and what the project is will be quite helpful to get support from citizens as you move forward. And certainly short-term, long-term bonds, I think is something that we would have to look at any project that we're going to do, bringing people in to see what is the best case, what's the best funding mechanism that you can do for that particular project. Okay. Yes. Pardon? Yeah, let's do planning, and I think if we haven't exhausted that already. So we talked about the school district. Yes, go on. So here's the example so I think that the Community Development Director will be presenting something to the council in a couple weeks regarding the housing element and the general plan. And, one of the things that is important is that, so every year the city does a budget They can do a 5-year plan, a redevelopment plan, a housing element, a circulation element, general plan. And one of the biggest issues that I've seen and even getting community plans, specific plans, you do those plans and they get placed on the shelf. So really what you want to do is you want to take that plan and really push and move those things forward. And so just like the items that you have in your 2030 vision with those particular, extremely important, I was very impressed when I started looking at this, because I always say, what does that look like? How do I know that I'm meeting your goals? But if you tell me what it looks like, then it's pretty clear on where I need to focus and what I need to do. So if we talk about a general plan and the housing element, we're making it very clear in terms of what we believe is what's needed in terms of the quality of life. The other important thing that I found to be very helpful, and it's something that I've done in the past, as the council has moved forward with the 2030 vision, you can't go around City Hall without seeing what that means. What's the mission, what's the vision, what's the core values, and what are you trying to accomplish? So that sort of becomes a customer bill of rights in terms of how I'm supposed to be treated, what the city is supposed to be doing, and that's been very, very successful in other organizations where they have that. You're basically branding and establishing your identity in terms of moving it. Your general plan does that, your budget does that, your housing element does that. And so it's really interesting when you have developers that come forward and they want to do something different than what you've already identified. If the council has a really solid general plan, a general solid housing element, those are important things that you can go out with developers and say, we've been consistent in moving these particular items forward. So the work that the council is doing is establishing basically a roadmap in moving the city forward. Any questions or anything on that? All right, Ms. Fortune. What is noticed on significant new projects? And so obviously, I think the council has that dialed in terms of ensuring that the public is engaged. And this is one of the reasons why, if you remember last night in the slide that we had in terms of where we had the council and the public were at odds, and I crossed that out. That was one of the things at the time, that was in that SWOT assessment. I don't think that we're in that mode right now. I think that we're in the mode of the council has made it very clear that they want to reach out to the public and ensure that they're notified and engaged in the process.
I don't know that I agree we're there yet.
Okay.
I believe as we're looking at significant projects, I started to think about this. It's one of those things where there's so much that goes on with a large project because it spans a large number of months and years, depending on what it is. And so by the time the average resident who's going about their business and living their life, by the time they hear about it, generally it is so far down the road that they don't believe that there's anything that they can do or give any input to it. And so I know that the city is noticing and trying to get resident input, but I don't think we've hit on how we get to the residents who have so many other things that take their attention day to day. To let them know that, hey, there's something that's going to go on and it is going to affect your life in the future. And I understand that you have these things that are very important to you, but we need to get your attention on this item as well, because as it goes down the road, you're going to be very interested in it.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I could draw attention to a particular area, the southwest corner of the city, there was an idea floated by the Planning Commission at a point to master plan that area as a specific plan. And as we've specific planned the Barton Road area, people kind of know what they're looking at. They know what to expect and know what they might anticipate as we go along Barton Road. And I think there's some importance when, just like you said, when you've got developers or people that are interested in developing an area, and there's so many things that happen in the application process, but if you don't have a specific plan on an area and it's not really well identified on what the parameters are going to be for the construction of that area, you lose track.
You do.
So I think we're still in that kind of a realm, possibly in our, in the general plan aspect of it, that area might, be better off in some sort of a specific plan element.
Okay, and that's an interesting, and I clearly understand exactly what you're saying. And from a staff's perspective, what I was looking at was, are we doing the notices?
Certainly, you're doing the notices as specified.
Right.
But that's not necessarily completing the communication. And so
Absolutely.
is the goal to do the notices as specified? Well, that's a sub-goal as far as I'm concerned. The communication to me is the actual goal. That means, are we getting the message to those who are going to be affected by it at some point?
Okay.
Mayor, just to add to that, an example of that would be, for example, you see a lot of times as you're driving through areas that are not really developed that much, and you see a big black and white sign. It's a standard, subdivision sign. Let's say tentative map about to be, heard here, and it'll have a slight description on it, and at least people know that's what's taken place. Now they may be up in arms and they may end up with pitchforks and shovels, but at least they've got an idea of what's going on.
Right.
But in our situation, we have a very, very general description of what's happening in that southwest corner, and by need flexibility, I understand that. It's not a problem, but if you're waiting for people to jump on the bandwagon, they won't jump on the bandwagon until probably the last day, and then they'll cry, fear and fault.
Okay. Sure, absolutely.
Madam Mayor, if I can just make a few suggestions. For the mayor's comment about advanced noticing, you're right. A lot of times we meet the state mandates, which are, prior to the public hearing, or if there's an environmental document, we meet those mandates. But one of the things we can look at doing is putting on our website a list of projects that are being processed. So when we actually do get a development application that comes in, we can have a list. Anybody can visit our website and see projects that are coming, that have been submitted, and what their status is. So we can look at doing something like that. And Councilmember Wilson, his suggestion about the public hearing notice, a large sign on project sites, that's very common with other cities. And so that's something I think we talked about on the Planning Commission a few years back, but I think that's something we can, I don't even know if that requires anything in our zoning code. I think we can just require that as a matter of public notice for new projects that come forward. And then with the southwest corner, I know that we are currently negotiating with a particular developer that will be master planning that for us. But again, when we get those applications, we can create a project list that we'll post on our website. So, thank you.
I think that'll move us towards a better communication.
Okay, great.
That way I'll know what's going on too.
That's right. Well, and whenever something starts on a site, so many people really want to know.
Right.
And so the more ways that we can put it out there for people to have access to that, better.
Yeah. And one of the things too is the community development director is developing a monthly report that is going to include all of that information. So you'll start to get that, I believe, maybe as early as next week. You'll get the July information, and you'll see what was processed, what it came through the system, and so we'll move that forward. So, it's always a concern that to make sure that the council knows what the planning commission's maybe sending up the pipe.
Yeah, that's been a disconnect for a while, I think, too.
Okay.
Mayor, what about, didn't we build out our websites and such like about a year ago where we were able to do more like e-blast and that sort of thing? So couldn't we have where residents who'd want to stay informed could subscribe to some sort of e-blast that we would send out maybe monthly or biweekly? And there are ways that we can continue to communicate that way.
My understanding is that we used to do that, and that those that were signed up, I've heard from at least 2 people now saying they don't get any kind of email.
Right. But
I mean,
we underwent
we
some
had the program.
enhancements, yes.
We had the program
then we
before the enhancements, and now we have the enhancements. We don't have the program anymore.
Well, the city has migrated to a new platform that is, I think it has that ability to do that. It is a different platform than I've seen in the past in terms of the usability of it, but I know that it does have that, the email blast. Now, I have to examine that particular program because what I'm familiar with are web pages that you can sign up for, that anytime that page changes, that you get a notice that says the pages. For example, you'd sign up for the council page. Anytime the clerk puts on a new agenda item, you get an email saying, and it's a link. You just click on that and it comes up. And so I know that our new web page is one of those sort of free designs that it's still functional. I mean, it's a little, I have to learn it because I'm not used to that particular page. I've seen pages with a lot more flexibility, but I'm not well versed to be able to say, but I know what you're talking about in terms of the email blast and the links going out. So I know that my search on our existing web page is predominantly for our agendas, and I have no problem getting them at all. So I'll have to examine and come back to the council on where we are with that.
Right. I think the email blast for a lot of people is helpful. They won't think to go and look at the website every so often to see what's updated.
So Madam Clerk, does the current web page do that?
It was my understanding when we just set it up that it was a function that the new website had.
Okay.
Are we not paying Kindle Flint, the Flint Strategies, or that company, a monthly service fee to do some of these actions for us?
Yes, but that contract actually ended at the end of September. And so it's a function that we will be taking over. And so this is kind of a great conversation for us to incorporate that. Because if the email blasts aren't going out, we certainly now have the responsibility to make sure that they go out. So we'll certainly get on top of that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ms. Fortune. So adhering to our core values, do we have any comments or ways to improve on that open and inclusive government, honesty, integrity, mutual respect, exceptional customer service, innovation, creativity, positive and productive work environment? Okay. So this one is what does all opinions matter, allowing everybody a voice. Obviously, that's one of the things that I think it kind of goes back to the core values, is how we treat the public when they have questions and concerns, in particular, and stakeholders and partners, how we can take in their information, and I think we have those similar issues even when we are fining and citing people, and even though that they may have some displeasure with our services, it doesn't mean that we can still maintain a professional demeanor, and I think that the staff actually does just that. So any comments or questions on that?
I forgot to mention, or I was going to save it for my report, but it'd be appropriate time now. One of the workshops on parks was that if you have amenities in your community, like parks and recreation, trails and bike paths and open space, the housing values go up 30%. So this is almost a way of, yes, it's going to cost some money, but it increases our tax base, and it kind of solves the problem of having a burden on the individual taxpayer at some point. It just has to get that process going. But that's phenomenal, that amount of money.
Absolutely. You know, that's very much like, it's really interesting, I learned years ago, is that when a city or a special district or the county builds a new fire station in a community, the real benefactors of that become the property owners in the nearby area, because their ISO ratings in terms tend to go down, and so for their insurance rating. So if they're rated at number 4, their insurance might be X number of dollars. If they're rated at number 1, I think I have that right, then their ratings, they could save hundreds of dollars on their insurance bill. Now, there isn't, the funny thing about that is that the government has now placed that facility there and couldn't charge didn't charge a fee for that community benefiting, but yet the residents are getting a significant amount in that. So much like parks, you have great parks, walkable green spaces, your values are going to go up. Your property values are going to go up. And so there needs to be sort of, as the Mayor Pro Tem said, a better understanding from the public on how that park really does have much more value than you think it does. And parks and open spaces and walkable communities are great for property values.
Madam Mayor.
As are places to shop and dine.
There you go.
Councilmember Hussey.
Yeah,
Question, Mayor?
Mr. Duffy, just to go back on what we were talking about, email blasts and stuff. A lot of our residents come to workshops and they use a lot of their time, and their input's very valuable. I like to see something on the council, but you know, as far as that blast is like have an update on our website saying, like, for example, ATP grant. Where was it? You know, what stage are we in? Did it pass? Did it not pass? To let residents know instead of us, you know, get asked, hey, whatever happened to that workshop we did? And that's what I would like to see. So they're informed if it passed, if it didn't pass, and what the status is on there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wilson.
Back to the park situation you were talking about, and I agree with the shopping opportunities too. Look what's happened to Redlands. And the park circumstance, how does a regional park reflect that kind of value or upgrade in value so far as properties? Because to me, it would seem to really heavily influence this area, because we're a little bit short right in our immediate area, but we do have some regional park availability that people reflect upon. For example, Yucaipa has a great regional park. So I'd like to see if it's not immediately identified in this area because we have limited space, how can we be in a cooperative circumstance, like we talked about the various agency partnerships. We kind of glossed over that a little bit, and I think, and actually, although Mayor Pro Tem Robles did bring up the regional partnerships, I think maybe we could delve into that a little bit stronger in relation to our partnership and stakeholder circumstance.
Okay. Absolutely.
Councilmember Mitchell.
I was just going to make a comment on the comment that Bill had made in regards to notifying the community when things either positive or not so positive, the results of our community meetings, basically. Maybe this is something that we can put in the paper, like we can actually put an update in there and thank the community for coming out and their involvement, and then provide an update. So maybe that's like a standard procedure that we do. Because I think we need to continue to encourage our residents to come out and participate, whether the outcome is good or bad.
Okay. Absolutely.
We have a number of residents that are on Facebook, and I noticed that the last time our city Facebook page was updated was sometime in September.
Okay.
Mid-September, I think. In fact, I thought it would have been a really good place to post about these meetings taking place, and went ahead and tried to post something, and it went off to the side, and whoever is monitoring it didn't even think to bring it to the middle. Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to also mention at the conference, on the retail and places to shop, they talked about one thing that I think the mayor is been advocating and has experiences as far as business incubation. And one of the things that I was looking at is, why does Redlands have these great mom and pop stores and we don't get any of that? And in a private discussion with the city manager, it was like, we almost have to have some kind of incentive to have people be less risk averse about coming into this community and developing. And one of the interesting things was that the top people that it was called Reinventing Shopping Centers and Retail. And this is one of the things they talk about. Instead of going out and looking for a major retail, it's almost, you can look at a local restaurant or local boutique people, and they've been able to get enough of that going that you really have a vibrant niche marketplace going on. And that just seems like something, maybe, is that in our vision, what kind of community we want? Do we want, especially whatever we can get, or do we want major chains, or do we want a mix of chains and really encourage, local entrepreneurship and business to develop?
When I look at the choice of restaurants in Redlands, a lot of the nice ones are not chains.
Right.
They are what Redlands has, and that further makes Redlands a unique community.
And it was too, the thing about this cap and trade is everything's being made in China. It's coming into the ports, and Speaker De Leon spoke, I guess because he's trying to get the locals to talk about the gas aspect that they lost in this cap and trade. And and I was watching the audience. Well, when they talked about asthma affecting people that live around there, people seem to be really concerned. But the funny thing is that we don't have any manufacturing in this country. People used to be the mom and pops that own things. So it'd be nice if we had this opportunity to, instead of having to ship everything in from China or ship everything in from a major chain, that we encouraged entrepreneurship and locally owned and locally sourced business.
Councilmember Wilson?
Mayor, I think when we consider these kinds of things, I do think we have to make a distinction between commercial and industrial or businesses, because I remember really well about 30 some odd years ago when we had this trend going for mom and pop businesses within the community, and they died. And the reason why they died was because there was so much competition from large box circumstances. In other words, I know people that go down to Walmart rather than go over to Stater Brothers because they can get stuff for 10% less or whatever the deal. It's the reality of the situation. I think industrial stuff, I think there is a possibility of catering to those things, and we've seen that, not a huge upsurge, but there is some of that, because if you look over at Redlands, you see tons of industrial buildings going up next to the freeway. But that's for a particular type of use. That's for Amazon.com. That's for some really big league trucking situations because we have all the circulation we have. But the mom and pop industrial circumstances can work in our area. So far as commercial, I think we have a brave new world. Too many people can go out there and go online, and why should they mess with something up and down, Barton Road, other than a restaurant? Unfortunately I say it, liquor stores, banks, those are the identifiers that we've seen survive over the years. You can't go to a Mary Mouse house. It won't work.
Unless it's somebody that has decided to have a storefront and sell on the internet.
They did talk about everything's going to mix use because of the internet. But they talked about, for example, the Grove, Rick Caruso's kind of thing, where shopping has to be a destination. You want to get out of the house. And so it becomes, you're competing basically, do you want to stay home and be at your monitor, or is that a real living experience going out? And I know for myself, it'd be great to get out and buy a meal and peruse some shops. I do a lot of online shopping, and I realize I can't buy shoes online. Doesn't work anymore. They're too long. They're this and that. But one thing I wanted to mention on the meeting with the Omnitrans people that you might find interesting, the people that are disabled that request services, they don't go to the Stater Brothers. They go to the Colton Stater Brothers, and they were wondering why. And I says, I can tell you why. It's too big. So and so when you're, when you don't want to cross a football field because you forgot salt and you got to go back. So, but what I'm thinking is, we're an aging population, and you're looking at people that want compactness, and there's people just as a lifestyle that like it. And then I think too, when we're competing with, we can't do things without experts guiding us, because before we would say, well, we want a hardware store, we want a pharmacy, and Grand Terrace would oblige, and there's just like, you're going to go to a hardware store twice a year. And it just wasn't, the fundamentals weren't there.
Mayor, and I actually had an opportunity to go to the Land Developers Conference maybe about a month ago in Ontario. And it was really interesting. What they talked about, the question was, it was at Victoria Gardens at their nature center, the cultural center, and they had all these developers from Orange County and Riverside and San Bernardino, and they talked about the Inland Empire. And one of the things they talked about was the issue of online versus retail centers, and most definitely they talked about it has to be an experience and a destination. And so Victoria Gardens said they were going to be expanding. But some of the interesting things they talked about was, so the companies are now moving to 3D printers where you can actually get your shoes made there on site. And it was an interesting comment that was really very interesting to me, is that there was a comment about how Amazon and the different online brokers are changing how things like 7-Eleven will be operating. So, for example, if a 7-Eleven wanted to come into Grand Terrace, I'd probably kind of look at them a little strange, until I realized this, is that part of the model of Amazon and these other places is that they're going to be having lockers in 7-Eleven. And so when you order something online, within 2 hours, your product will be in that locker at 7-Eleven. And they're going to be like centers that you can, so they're looking at this network of 7-Elevens, you can go and pick your product up in a matter of hours. And so also from the conference, they also talked about, the city manager from Santa Clara was there, and he was previously in another city. And he talked about how they lured businesses in. And it's what a classic use of what they did in redevelopment. They incentivize those companies to locate. But one of the things that the SBA does, and some of the requirements that they require for small business owners, so if you're going to do an incubator program, is one, require the small business or the new business to develop that business plan. Give them the tools to be able to have to sit down and understand that they may be great manufacturers but poor business people. So having those steps in place can actually, so if you're going to be partnering with a particular new business, and if they're willing to go in and they're going to be putting in resources to locate into the city, understanding what the potential return might be, and having them have that business plan, having that criteria established, so you can actually have a return. It might be a long-term return, but a return, on your investment. So those are all very important things as we talk about the new age of businesses locating in the city. And I wholeheartedly agree is that what the city needs to do is to be selective in its process. Because you really only have one really good chance to develop vacant parcels. Now, some of the other lands that are, currently there's buildings on it and owners can do, by right, they can put some things on there. But when you have a certain vision in place, then you can go out and you can market the city based on that. And what I heard from the developers at the conference was that the city that has clearly defined what they want and has a clear marketing plan, those are the ones that we look at. By looking at the demographics, looking at the stories being told, looking at the day population, the night population, and looking at how well the city's infrastructure is, so we can go in, and when the city says in 6 weeks you'll have that permit, it's not 6 months, it's actually 6 weeks, and you have success stories from other businesses that are there that can say yes. There's a reason why Stater Brothers store is doing 65% better in terms of return than other Stater Brothers stores. So something must be happening there that's allowing them to be successful. And so look around the other Stater Brothers stores and you say, well, why can't we get those same side stores to locate in Grand Terrace? And what I often say when people talk about Walmart and they look at Walmart and it's only as the Walmart store, I say, well, no, you have to look at, if Walmart has 100,000 visitors coming there each week, look at the surrounding stores that are feeding off of those customers. And that's what you're going to end up with, not just Walmart, but the additional services that you're going to have. So when we get our plan together and we come back to the council and we talk about, there's a notion of what you want your city to look like. And there's also this question. So you currently have businesses that are in a shopping center that lost its major tenant. And so the question becomes, are you willing to accept something that you wouldn't normally accept to stabilize that facility? It's not the long-term project you're looking for. You're looking at building new structures and new things. But if you have a tenant that's going to come in, that's going to generate additional buzz to stabilize that center and increase those restaurants and those businesses, is that something that you want to consider as a part of stabilizing that while you grow the other parts of your community? So there's a difference between building new facilities, a difference between expanding businesses and stabilizing your existing, your businesses. So those are questions that I think the council is going to have to say, as a business comes in, is that acceptable? And that's what we'll be bringing back to the council in the near future. Okay, with that, Mayor, I think I've talked out.
All right. All right. Well, good deal. I think it's a good time then to say we're adjourning this special meeting of the council to Wednesday, October 7th, 2015 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of conducting the third day, this is the second, of the City Council's 2030 Vision Strategic Planning Update Workshop in council chambers. We are adjourned. Thank you to those of you who came out, and thank you to my colleagues for your discussion, and thank you for staff for setting up a little game for us to play. That was certainly interesting. Changed things up. My button wasn't working either.